Good morning, everyone. Well, there isn't many people around, but still a very good morning to whoever in the chat. And it's just Dean, my manager, and I here. Oh, someone just walked in. It's Ganix, Thunder Song. Thank you so much for attending. And also, an hour ago, someone named Zubi1 has followed the channel. So thank you very much for the follow. I hope you are here so you can hear me. Thank you. And yeah, have how's everyone's morning going so far? I think it's been pretty productive for me. I woke up at a proper hour. I did some work. I clean up my room a little bit, which is something that's very, very hard and tough for someone like me, who has issues. Anyway, thank you so much for being here with me, by the way. I really appreciate it, and I hope that y'all will enjoy the reading session today. So, tell me about your morning. Tell me, how's everyone doing? I know Deanne has been taking a break from the game for a little bit. I think she's experiencing some burnout from all the X trials that we ran non-stop to get the weapon and all the Agleia that we try to get. Yeah, I've been lucky when it comes to the Agleia raid, but that's also because I run it like 10,000 times a day. One second, sip of tea. And yeah, I got the minion already, Azima. Apparently, everyone's new mama. I'll never understand the whole mummy thing. It's a bit weird to me. Yeah, we have absolutely no luck on the music scroll whatsoever. It's disappointing. Like, I will roll like 96 or 98 on the music scroll, and then someone else will roll it like one number above me. You're still looking for a Zima, Gani? Yeah. We are still spamming it for the music scroll, by the way. I was lucky enough to get my casting chest piece already. Next week I'm working on trying to get the healing chest piece. Because they're pretty and they look really pretty on Elezen too, especially Elezen. I feel like they look really pretty on Elezen because of how elegant they look. But I could be biased because I think Elezen are really pretty. So very rare occasion that very few people think that Elezen are good looking. They mostly think that they have like really long neck and like giraffe looking or whatever. But I think Elezen looks really nice. I don't know. Oh hey, I know who you are. It's Flippy. Always seated at the right macaron. Thank you so much once again for being here with me today. I'm contemplating actually whether I should change my my edit search info into role play. I don't know. Am I role playing? I don't know. Am I role playing? Could I be role playing? Am I role playing? I don't know. We'll just do role play, okay, for now. Right? And thank you so much for Yannick and Flippy for being here with me today. I really appreciate it. Um, I know Flippy is very quiet and she doesn't really talk much, but I know that she enjoys the reading a lot, and that warms my heart. Um, oh, we got 5 viewers already. Hello, good morning, everyone. How's everyone doing today? This Friday morning. Are you guys excited for the weekend? Have you guys got anything planned for the weekend? I didn't have anything planned. I'm just like I'm always at home. Oh, but you know what I planned? Oh my god, you won't believe it. I actually made an appointment to go get my hair done next week. I'm gonna get my hair dyed. And I told my stylist who's my friend. Yeah, I changed my hairstyle. Cute or not? Cute, right? Good morning, Chloe. Good morning. Yeah, believe it or not, I actually made an appointment to meet my stylist next Thursday. Cause I'm usually like I don't do anything on Thursdays anyway. Like I don't stream or anything. So uh yeah, I'm gonna go to my stylist and I told her that I want to dye my hair, but I don't care what color you dye. You just choose a color for me and you dye it for me. I don't care. Maybe we can try like highlights this time or whatever, you know. So I just told my stylist that do whatever you want to my hair, because I really trust her, because she has really good eyes for, and she knows exactly what suits me. So I'm going to leave it to her. So I will have absolutely no idea how my hair is going to turn out. My hair color at least. Next week on next Thursday onwards. I think it's about time to change my hairstyle or hair color. It's been a long time since I dyed my hair. My hair is so black. Like this is exactly like this avatar that you see like my this is exactly how my hair looks like. It's just black. Like it's like super black. Purple? You think purple? I don't know. I don't think she'll do purple for me. I think she'll do red for me. Because she always say that I look good in red. I don't know. We'll see how. Because I told her to surprise me. So I really won't know what color I'll have. Yeah. I'll see how it goes. I told her to surprise me. And she might bleach my hair. She asked me if it's okay to bleach my hair. And I said that, I mean, if you think that it won't like um damage my hair too much, then just go ahead and do whatever. Nah, the end. Never pink. I was never the pink girl. Ask Chloe. I was never the pink girl. I think ever since young, I never liked pink. It's like the closest to pink I like is red. Yeah, and even that, like if you look into my closet, I don't even have red clothing. I have like blue, green, brown, and black. Yeah, green. Yeah, green. The last time I had the green hair, it's so nice. Yeah, I'm thinking about that actually. Like, I wonder if she would do the green for me again. Yeah. Yeah, the green is so nice. The last time I had the green hair, it was just like half of my hair, so it looks like ombre from the bottom of my like it's like a deep dye hair. At the bottom, it just goes up to green. It's like turquoise green hair. It's so nice. That was the last time I ever dyed my hair. That was in 2019. So like right before the whole COVID bullshit happened. And I kept that green hair for so long until I cut it all off, and then my hair is just black until now. There's something tickling my throat today. I'm not sure why. Like I keep wanting to cough. Sorry. Yeah, the green is very nice. Yeah, I don't know, but I told her to surprise me. Anyway, I still have um that if she really bleached my hair, right, I still have the type of blue. Like, you know how color works, right? Like, if you mix yellow with green, it becomes if you mix yellow with blue, it turns into green, right? So what happens is that once the color that if she bleached my hair, once the color that she applied on my bleached hair washed off after a few washes, I can just use the remaining whatever green that hair dye that I have, and reapply it on my hair, and it will turn in. It's the blue hair dye that I got from my last trip to Japan, and I put it onto the bleach part, and it will turn into green. So I think regardless what color she makes for me, I think it's going to be interesting. Like, I'm gonna play around. I'm gonna go buy like some really weird colors to play with if she really bleach my hair. I think she really wants to bleach my hair. I think she wants to experiment. Since, like, if you are a hairstylist and your customers tell you that do whatever you want to my hair, yeah, you'll want to do whatever you want to do. And my hair is so thick, even if it's damaged, it's not that super damaged. Anyway, it's 11 past 11. Enough talk about my stupid hair. Um, we shall take a nice tea sip, and then we shall start reading the book. Give me 1 second, please. Okay, it's okay. Have a nice day. Bye bye. Today we are reading Before the Coffee Gets Cold by Toshikazu Kawaguchi. Chapter 3, The Sisters. A girl was sitting quietly in that seat. She looked old enough to be in high school. She had large, sweet eyes. She was wearing a beige turtleneck with a tartan check miniskirt, black tights, and moss brown boots. Oops, sorry. A duffel coat hung on the back of her chair. Her clothes could have been worn by an adult, but there was something childlike about her expression. Her hair was cut in a bob to her jawline. She wore no makeup, but her naturally long eyelashes accentuated her pretty features. Although she came from the future, there was nothing that would have been prevented her from passing in public as someone from the present. If it hadn't been for that rule that said that anyone visiting from the future must stay in that seat. As it was early August, her clothes would, however, have looked terribly out of season. It was still a mystery as to who she had come to meet. Right now, the only person in the cafe was Nagare Tokita. The large framed man with narrow eyes was wearing a cook's uniform and standing behind the counter. But the cafe proprietor did not seem to be the girl who had come to meet. Although her eyes were looking at Nagare, they showed no signs of emotions towards him. She seemed to be totally indifferent to his existence. But at the same time, no one else was in the cafe. Nagare stood there looking at her with his arms crossed. Nagare was a large man. Any ordinary girl or woman for that matter might have felt a little threatened sitting in that small cafe alone with him. But the untroubled expression on this girl's face suggested that she couldn't care less. The girl and Nagare had exchanged no words. The girl had been doing nothing except occasionally glancing at one of the clocks on the wall, as if she was worried about the time. Suddenly, Nagare's nose twitched and his right eye opened wider. A ching from the toaster in the kitchen rang out. Food was ready. She went into the kitchen and began busily preparing something. The girl didn't pay any attention to the noise and took a sip of her coffee. She nodded as if to say, yes. The coffee must have still been warm as her expression suggested that she had plenty of time. Nagare came out from the kitchen. She was carrying a rectangular tray with a toast and butter, salad, and fruit yogurt on it. The butter was homemade, his specialty. His butter was so good that the woman in curlers, Yaeko Hirai, would come in for some, armed with a plastic container. Nagare got a lot of joy from watching customers delight as they ate his delicious butter. The problem was that although he used the most expensive ingredients, the butter was free for customers. He didn't charge for condiments. He was very particular about that. These high standards for his were quite a problem. Still holding the tray, he stood in front of the girl. His large frame must have seemed like a giant wall to the petite girl seated there. He looked down at her. "Who did you come to meet?" he asked, getting straight to the point. He looked down at her. The girl looked up at the giant wall standing there. She casually stared at him. He was used to his huge size causing surprise and apprehension in those who didn't know him. It felt strange now that he didn't have this effect. "What?" he asked. But the girl didn't offer much of a response. "No one in particular," she just said and took another sip of coffee. She wouldn't engage with him at all. Tilting his head to one side, he gracefully placed the tray on the table for the girl and then returned to his place behind the counter. The girl looked uncomfortable. Excuse me," she called to Nagare. "What?" "I didn't order this," the girl said awkwardly, pointing to the toast in front of her. "On the house," he said with pride. The girl looked at all the free food with disbelief. He uncrossed his arm and leaned forward with both of his hands on the counter. "You made all the effort to come home from the future. I cannot have a girl like you going back without serving you anything," he said, perhaps expecting at least a thank you. But the girl just kept staring at him and didn't even smile. He felt obliged to respond. "Is there a problem?" he said, a bit rattled. "No, thank you, I'll eat it," added the girl. "Well, wouldn't I?" The girl expertly spread the butter on the toast and took a hungry mouthful. She kept on munching. She had a wonderful way of eating. He was waiting for the girl's reaction. Naturally, he thought she would show her delight upon eating his boast-worthy butter, but she didn't react as he had anticipated. She carried on eating without changing expression. When she finished the toast, she started crunching on the salad and gobbling down the fruit yogurt. On finishing, the girl just folded her hands in thanks for the food without having made a single comment. Nagare was crestfallen. Clang dong. The door opened. It was Kazu. She handed the key ring with its wad of keys to Nagare behind the counter. "I'm back," she said, stopping mid-word when she noticed a girl in that seat. "Hey!" replied Nagare, pocketing the keyring. He didn't say, "Hey, welcome back," like he normally would. Kazu grabbed his wrist and whispered, "Who is she?" "I've been trying to find out," he replied. Normally, Kazu wouldn't particularly pay much attention to who was seated there. When someone appeared, she could easily tell that the person had come from the future to meet someone. It was not something she interfered in. But never had such a young, pretty girl sat in that chair before. She couldn't help but openly stare at her. Her staring did not go unnoticed. "Hello," said the girl, offering a pleasant smile. Nagare's left eyebrow twitched in annoyance that she hadn't offered such a smile to him. "Did you come to meet someone?" said Kazu. "Yeah, I guess," the girl conceded. Hearing this conversation, Nagare tightened his lips. He had asked the same question just moments earlier and the girl had said no. He was not amused. "But they're not here, are they?" he said crossly, turning away. So who was she planning to meet? Kazu wondered as she tapped her index finger against her chin. Surely it wasn't him. She pointed the chin tapping finger towards Nagare. Nagare pointed at himself. "Me?" He folded his arms and muttered, as if he was trying to remember the circumstances surrounding this girl's appearance. The girl had appeared on that seat about 10 minutes ago. Kay had needed to go to the gynecology clinic, so Kazu had driven her there. Normally, Nagare would take Kay to her regular checkups, but today was different. He considered the gynecology clinic to be a sanctuary for women only, where no man should venture. That was why he was manning the cafe alone. Did she choose a time when only I was working? His heart lifted at the moment. So perhaps the way she has been until now is down to her being embarrassed. Stroking his chin, he nodded as if it all made sense. He sprang from the counter and sat down in the chair facing the girl. The girl stared back at him blankly. He no longer looked like the person he had been until a moment ago. If her coldness towards me is just out of shyness, I will try to be more approachable, he thought and grinned broadly. He leaned forward on his elbows in an easy-going way. "So was it me that you come to visit?" he asked the girl. "No way." "Me? You came to visit me?" "No." "Me? No." The girl was adamant. Kazu heard the exchange and came to a simple conclusion. "Well, you're completely ruled out." Again, Nagare was deflated. "Okay, so it's not me," he said sulkily as he trudged back to the counter. The girl seemed to find this amusing and let out a cheeky giggle. When the bell rang, the girl looked at the clock in the middle of the wall. This clock in the middle was the only one that was accurate. The other two were either too slow or too fast. She must have known. The girl's eyes were fixed on the entrance. A moment later, Kay walked into the cafe. "Thanks, Kazu dear," she said as she entered. She was wearing an aqua-colored dress and strappy sandals, and was fanning herself with a straw hat. She had gone out with Kazu, but judging from the plastic shopping bag she was holding, she must have popped into the convenience store nearby before coming into the cafe. Kay was by nature a carefree person. Always charming and never shy, she was comfortable with the most intimidating of customers. She would be friendly and outgoing, even when communicating with a foreigner who spoke no Japanese. When Kay noticed the girl sitting in that seat, she said, "Hello, welcome," while wearing a big smile. Her smile was beaming even more than normal, and the tone of her voice was a little higher, too. The girl straightened in her chair and bowed her head a little, keeping her gaze on Kay. Kate responded with a smile and trotted towards the back room. So how was it? Nagare asked Kei. Given where she and Kazu had just returned from, there could be only one thing she wanted to know. Kei patted her still flat stomach, gave him the peace sign and smiled. Ah, right then, he said. He narrowed his eyes further and gave two small nods. When he felt joy, he found himself unable to express his happiness openly. Knowing this all too well, Kay looked at his reaction with contentment. With keenly observing eyes, the girl in that seat watched this exchange warmly. Kay didn't seem to notice how the girl was watching her and began walking to the back room. As if this was some kind of cue, the girl called out in an unexpectedly loud voice, "Excuse me?" Kay stopped in her tracks and answered unthinkingly, "Yes?" She turned and looked at the girl with her round, bright eyes. The girl self-consciously averted her eyes and began fidgeting. "What is it?" Kay asked. The girl looked up as if she indeed wanted something. Her smile was honest and sweet. The cold distance she expressed towards Nagare had just vanished entirely. It's just... Yes? What is it? I would like to take my photo with you." Kay blinked, startled by the girl's voice. "With me?" she asked. "Yes," Nagare immediately responded. "With her?" he asked, pointing to Kay. "Yes," said the girl cheerily. "Are you saying that you came to see her?" asked Kazu. "Yes." Kay's eyes beamed brightly at this unknown girl's sudden confession. Kay was never suspicious of strangers, so rather than asking the girl who she was or why she wanted the photo, she immediately said, "Oh, really? Can I fix my makeup first?" She put out a case from her shoulder bag and began fixing her makeup. No, there's no time," the girl said urgently. "Oh, no, of course, of course." Naturally, Kay knew the rules well. Her cheeks flushed as she snapped the case shut. The girl was prevented from positioning herself alongside Kay, as you would normally do when you are asking for a photo, but the rule prohibiting her to move from that seat. Kay passed her convenience store plastic bag and straw hat to Kazu and stood next to the girl. "Where is your camera?" asked Kazu. The girl pushed something towards her across the table. "Huh? Is that a camera?" asked Kay in surprise. As Kazu looked at the camera handed to her, it had the dimension of a business card, wafer thin and semi-transparent. It just looked like a plastic card. Kay was fascinated by it. She took a close look at it from all angles. "It's so thin. We have to hurry. Time's almost up," the girl said calmly to Kay. "Yes, I'm sorry," said Kay, shrugging her shoulders and standing alongside the girl again. "Okay, I'm taking it." Kazu pointed the camera at the two. It didn't seem difficult to use. She just pressed the button that appeared on the screen. Click. "What? Wait a minute. When are you going to take it?" said Kay. Kazu had taken the picture while Kay was adjusting her hair and arranging her fringe. She handed the camera back to the girl. "You already took it? When did you take it? When did you do that?" The girl and Kazu were both very businesslike. Kay alone was full of questions and confused. "Thank you very much," said the girl, and immediately drank the remainder of her coffee. "What? Just a minute," Kay said, but the girl vaporized into steam. As the steam rose towards the ceiling, the woman in the dress appeared from underneath it. It looked like a transformation trick worthy of a ninja. As all three were used in such things happening, no one was particularly surprised. If another customer had seen it, they would have been shocked. If a customer ever did see such a thing, they would be told that it was a parlor trick, as though if the cafe staff were asked how to perform this trick, they would be unable to provide an answer. The woman in the dress was reading her novel casually as if nothing had happened. However, when she noticed the tray, she pushed it away with her right hand, which clearly meant, "Take that away." When Kay went to clean up the tray, Nagare took it from her, tilted his head to one side, and disappeared into the kitchen. I wonder who that was, Kay muttered. She retrieved the plastic convenience store bag and straw hat from Kazu and retreated to the back room. Kazu kept staring at that chair where the woman in dress was sitting. It was clear from her by the look on her face that something was bothering her. This was the first time a customer had come from the future to meet Nagare, Kei, or Kazu. Oopsie. Ooh. Oh my god, Ariana, what the hell happened to you? Oh my god. One sip of tea. Alright. There had never seemed to be a good reason why anyone would want to go back in time to see one of the cafe staff members who were always in the cafe. Yet, a girl had just come from the future to meet Kay. Kazu didn't interrogate or press anyone on why they had visited from the future. Even if, say, a murderer traveled back in time, she would have a good reason to leave it alone. The rule was that the present doesn't change no matter how much one tries to rearrange things in the past. This rule could never be broken. A series of random events would always somehow unfold to prevent the present from changing. If, for example, a gunman came from the future and fatally shot a customer, as long as the customer was living in the future, he could not die even if he had been shot in the heart. That was the rule. Kazu or whoever was there would call the ambulance and the police, and the ambulance would leave for the cafe. The ambulance would not get caught in traffic. The ambulance would travel from the emergency center to the cafe and carry the patient from the cafe to the hospital using the shortest distance and in the fastest time. On looking at the patient, the hospital staff might say, "We probably cannot save him." Even if that happened, then a world-leading surgeon would happen to be visiting the hospital and would operate on the patient. Even if the victim's blood was a rare type that only one in several 10,000 possessed, there would be a stock of such blood at the hospital. The surgery staff would be so excellent and the operations would be successful. The surgeon might later say that if the ambulance had been 1 minute later or if the bullet had been located 1 milliliter to the left, the patient would not have survived. All the staff would say that it was a miracle that the patient survived, but it wouldn't be a miracle. It would be because of the rule that which dictate that the man who was shot in the past must survive. Because of this, Kazu didn't mind who came from the future or whatever reason. Everything a visitor came from the future might try would be futile. "Could you do this for me, please?" Nagare called from the kitchen. Kazu turned and looked to see Nagare standing at the kitchen door, holding the tray containing the coffee brewed for the woman in the dress. She took the tray and started carrying it to the table where the woman was sitting. For a while, she stared at the woman, while thoughts went around her head. What did the girl came back for, I wonder? If it was just to take a picture of Kay, why did she go to the effort of returning to the past? The bell rang, clang dong. "Hello, welcome!" Nagare shouted. Kazu collected her thoughts and served the coffee. "I feel like there's something important that I'm missing." she thinks to herself. To dispel the feeling, she gave her head a little shake. Hello! Kotake had entered the cafe. She was on her way home from work. She was wearing a lime green polo shirt and a white skirt with the black pumps on her feet. She had a canvas bag hanging from her shoulder. Hello, Kotake, Nagare said. On hearing her name again, she spun around on her heel as if to walk out again. Ah, sorry, Mrs. Fusagi, she corrected himself. Kotake smiled with approval and sat at the counter. It was now 3 days since Kotake had returned to pass and receive the letter that Fusagi had written but never given to her. She now insisted upon Mrs. Fusagi. She hung her bag on the back of her chair. Coffee, please, she ordered. Certainly, Nagare said, bowing his head and turning to the kitchen to brew the coffee. She looked around the empty cafe, flexed her shoulders, and took a deep breath. She had planned to accompany Fusagi on his walk home if he had been at the cafe, so she was a little disappointed. Kazu, who had been watching the exchange between Nagare and Kotake with a smile, had finished serving the woman in the dress. I'm just taking a break, she said, and disappeared into the back room. Kotake said, okay, and gave her a little wave. It was early August and summer was really peaking. Kotake, though, who liked her coffee hot even in the summer, she liked the aroma of it when it was freshly brewed. She couldn't enjoy iced coffee in the same way. Coffee was far more pleasurable when it was hot. I agree. When Nagare made coffee, he usually brewed it using the siphon method by pouring boiling water into a flask, then heating it to allow the evaporated steam to rise through the funnel and extract the coffee from the ground beans held inside the funnel. However, when he made coffee for Kotake and some other regular customers, he brewed the coffee hand drip style. When making hand drip coffee, he put a paper filter in a dripper, added the ground beans, and poured boiling water over them. He thought that the hand drip style of making coffee allowed for greater flexibility as you could change the bitterness and sourness of the coffee by changing the temperature of the water and the way you poured it. As the cafe did not play background music, it was possible to hear the soft sound of coffee dripping drop by drop into the server. When Kotake heard this dripping sound, she would smile in satisfaction. Kei tended to use an automatic coffee maker. This machine was equipped with a single button that allowed different tastes to be accommodated. As Kei was not a master in the art of making coffee, she preferred to rely on a machine. Some of the regular customers who came to enjoy a cup of coffee did not therefore order when Nagare was not around. After all, the coffee was always the same price whether it was brewed by Nagare or Kei. Kazu normally made coffee using the siphon method. The reason for this choice was not because of the taste. She simply enjoyed watching the hot water rise up through the funnel. Besides, Kazu found the hand drip coffee too tedious to make. Oh my god, this is such a coffee geek shit that I'm enjoying right now. Oh my god. I wonder how many of you understood this entire paragraph. I'm enjoying it so much because I brew coffee this way, the hand drip style as well. Kotake was served with coffee specially brewed by Nagare. With the coffee in front of her, she closed her eyes and inhaled deeply. It was a moment of happiness. As per his insistence, the coffee had been made from mocha beans with the distinct aroma, which coffee drinkers either love or hate. Those who enjoy the aroma, like Kotake, cannot get enough of it. In fact, you could say that the coffee picked the customers, just as with his butter. Nagare enjoyed watching customers take pleasure in the aroma. As he watched, his eyes narrowed even further. By the way, said Kotake while enjoying her coffee, as if she had suddenly remembered, I noticed that Hirai's bar has been closed both days, both yesterday and today. Do you know anything about that? The snack bar, a sort of mini hostess bar that Hirai ran, was just meters away from the cafe. It was a small bar comprising a counter with 6 seats, but it was always busy. It opened at different times each evening, depending on Hirai's mood, of course, but it was open 7 nights a week, all year round. Since she opened its doors, the bar had been open every night without fail. Patrons often waited outside for it to open. Some nights, as many as 10 customers squeezed into the place. Only the first 6 customers sat on chairs, the rest would drink standing up. The patrons weren't only men either. Hirai was popular among women too. Her blunt way of speaking sometimes dented the pride of patrons, but they knew there was no malice intended, and there were never hard feelings. Patrons always felt comfortable around her. She had a natural gift for being able to say anything and get away with it. She dressed in a flashy way and couldn't care less what anyone thought about it, but she believed in good manners and etiquette. She would listen to anything anyone had to say. Though, if she thought a patron was wrong, even if they were of high social status, she would have no qualms on setting them straight. Some patrons were generous with their money, but she never accepted any money except in payment for drinks. Some patrons would try to earn her favor by offering her expensive gifts, but she never accepted them, not once. There were even men who would offer her a house or an apartment, a Mercedes or a Ferrari or diamonds or the like. She would just say, "I'm not interested." Even Kotake sometimes visited her bar. It was a place where you could be guaranteed to have fun time drinking. Kotake had noticed that her bar, usually so full of customers, has been closed for 2 nights in a row, and none of the patrons knew why. She was a little concerned. As soon as she broached the subject of Hirai, Nagare's face turned serious. "What happened?" she asked, a little startled. "Her sister. There was a road accident," he said softly. "Oh no!" She went home. "Oh, how terrible!" She sank her gaze into the pitch black coffee. She knew Hirai's younger sister Kumi, from which she would visit and try to get Hirai, who had broken ties with her family, to come home. For the last 1 or 2 years, Hirai had found her frequent visits such a nuisance that more often than not she avoided meeting her. Regardless, Kumi would go make the visit to Tokyo almost every month. 3 days ago, Kumi had visited the cafe to meet Hirai. The accident occurred on her way home. The small car that she was driving collided head-on with an oncoming truck, whose driver must have dozed off. She was taken to the hospital in an ambulance but did not survive the journey. "What a horrible news!" Kotake left her coffee alone. The faint steam that had been rising from it had disappeared. Nagare stood with his arms folded, silently looking at his feet. He had received an email from his phone from Hirai. She probably would have contacted Kei, but Kei didn't own a phone. In the email, Hirai gave some details about the accident and mentioned that the bar would be closed for a while. The email had been written in a matter-of-fact tone, as if it had happened to someone else. Kei had used his phone to reply and had asked how Hirai was doing, but she got no response. The inn on the outskirts of Sendai was called Takakura, which meant the treasury. Sendai is a popular tourist destination, particularly famous for its gorgeous Tanabata festival. The festival is best known for its sasakazari, a towering piece of bamboo about 10 meters long, to which 5 giant paper balls with colorful paper streamers are attached. The other decorations from the festival, colorful paper strips, paper kimonos, and origami paper cranes, are sought after by tourists who use them for business blessings and lucky charms. The festivals always take place from 6 to 8 of August, which meant that in a few days the decorations preparation in the countdown area around Sendai Station was due to begin. Given the 2 million tourists were attracted to the 3 days festival, Tanabata was the busiest period for Takakura, located as it was about 10 minutes by the taxi from Sendai Station. Hello, welcome! Nagare called out cheerfully, lifting the cafe out of his somber mood. On hearing the bell, Kotake took the opportunity to get more comfortable. She reached for the coffee. Hello, welcome, as Kay coming out from the back room in an apron after hearing the bell, but there was still no one. It was taking longer than normal for someone to appear in the cafe, but just as Nagare tilted his head, questioning to one side, a familiar voice rang out. Oh, Cornelius. Thank you. Oh, it's alright. Have a lovely day too. Yeah, she's cool. Nagare tilted his head questioningly to one side. A familiar voice rang out. Nagare! Kei! Someone! I need salt! Bring me salt! Hirai? Is that you? No one had expected her to come back so early, even if her sister's funeral had now taken place. Kei looked at Nagare, her eyes wide in astonishment. Nagare stood there a moment in daze, given that he had just delivered the terrible news about Kumi to Kotake. To hear Hirai's usual brisk tone must have been a little disorienting. Hirai may have wanted the salt for spiritual purification, but it sounded more like yelling from the kitchen where someone was frantically making dinner. Come on! This time her shout had a low, sultry edge to it. Okay, just a second. Nagare finally got moving. He grabbed a small bottle of cooking salt from the kitchen and shuffled hastily to the entrance. Kotake pictured Hirai standing beyond the cafe's entrance dressed in her normal flashy attire. To her, Hirai's behavior wasn't quite one might expect. How could it be that her sister had just died? She and Kei exchanged glances. Kei seems to be thinking the same thing. I'm so exhausted, Hirai said, coming in dragging her feet. Hello, Beat! Thank you for being here. Thank you so much. I'm so exhausted, Hirai said, coming in dragging her feet. Her walk was the same as normal, but she was dressed rather differently. Rather than wearing her usual loud clothes and in red and pink, she was in mourning clothes. Rather than head full of curlers, her hair was done up in a tight bun. Anyone would agree that she looked like a different person. Dressed in her mourning black, she dropped herself down in the middle table seat and raised her right arm. Sorry. Let me sit more comfortably. Sorry to be a bother, but could I have a glass of water, please? She asked Kay. Of course, Kay said. With a somewhat exaggerated sense of urgency, she scuttled off to the kitchen to find some water. Phew, Hirai exclaimed. She stretched out her arms and legs like she was doing a star jump. Her black handbag swung from her right arm. Nagare, still holding a bottle of salt, and Kotake, seated at the counter, stared at her like she was behaving oddly. Kei came back with a glass of water. Thank you. Hirai put her handbag on the table, took the glass in her hand, and to Kei's amazement, drank it down in one gulp. She let out an exhausted sigh. Another one, please, she said, presenting Kei with the glass. Kei took the glass and disappeared into the kitchen again. Wiping perspiration from her brow, Hirai let out another sigh. Nagare stood there watching her. Hirai, he said. What? How do I put it? Put what? How do I say that? That, what? I'm sorry for your loss. Hirai's strange behavior, so unlike someone in mourning, had made Nagare struggle to remember an appropriate thing to say. Kotake was also lost for words and bowed her head. You mean Kumi? Yes, of course. Well, it was certainly unexpected, unlucky, I guess you would say, Hirai said, shrugging her shoulders. Hello, Shiori. Kay returned with another glass of water. Thank you, Kiana. Thank you. Kay returned with another glass of water. Worried about Hirai's demeanor, Kay handed her the glass and bowed her head, revealing her discomfort. I'm sorry. Thanks. Hirai downed the new glass of water as well. They say she got hit in the wrong place, so she was unlucky, she said. It sounded like she was talking about something that had happened to a stranger. The crease deepened between Kotake's brows as she leant forward. Was it today? What today? The funeral, of course, Kotake replied, betraying her uneasiness with Hirai's attitude. Yeah, look, Hirai said as she stood up and spun round to show her funeral attire. It kind of suits me, don't you think? Do you think it made me look a bit subdued? Hirai made some kind of a model poses, adopting a proud face. Her sister was dead. Unless the people in the cafe was mistaken about that, her irreverence seems over the top. As she was becoming increasingly irritated at Hirai's blasé attitude, Kotake strengthened her words. Why on earth did you come home so early? She asked, her face showing signs of disgust as if she was biting her tongue, trying not to say, a little disrespectful to your dead sister, don't you think? Oops. Hello there. Yu Jung. Thank you so much for attending. Thank you so much. Hirai dropped her exaggerated pose and sat down again. Aww. It's okay. I always have the VODs saved up, so don't worry about it. It's on Twitch, but it's also on my YouTube channel as well. You can find my YouTube channel somewhere. Deanne, can you help me link up my YouTube channel for you, Jung? I think it's better to watch. Sorry, to listen from YouTube because YouTube uh loading is better than Twitch. Twitch sometimes doesn't like. Yeah, Twitch sucks sometimes when it comes to like the VODs. So I think it might be better if you listen to it on yeah, go to my YouTube channel. There will be a playlist under Noodibles. All of my previous Noodibles will be there, so you can catch all of my previous Noodibles there. I never make it exclusive, like, oh, this is an exclusive reading whereby if you miss it, you won't be able to listen to it again. I never make such a thing. So don't worry about it, It's just you can just go ahead and re-listen to it on my YouTube channel or on Twitch, wherever you like. It's just that YouTube loads better on your mobile phone. Twitch is better on the your PC, on laptop, I think. Yeah. All right. We shall continue. No worries. Welcome. Thank you so much for supporting me. I'm very grateful that you guys are interested in this. Hirai dropped her exaggerated pose and sat down again lazily. She held up her hands. Oh, it's not like that. I've got a bar to think about, she answered, clearly knowing what Kotake wanted to say. But still, please let it go. She reached over to her black handbag and took a cigarette from inside. So, are you okay? Nagare asked, toying with the salt bottle in his hands. With what? Hirai was reluctant to open up. With a cigarette in her mouth, she was peering into her black handbag again. She was rummaging around for her lighter, which she seemed to be having a job finding. Nagare pulled a lighter from his pocket and presented it to her. But your parents must be very upset over the death of your sister. Shouldn't you stay with them for a while? Hirai took the lighter from Nagare and lit the cigarette. Well, sure, normally that would be the case. Her cigarette glowed and burned to a column of ash. She tapped the ash in the ashtray. The cigarette smoke rose and disappeared. Hirai watched the smoke rise. But there was nowhere for me to be, she said, expressionless. For a moment, what she had said did not sink in. Both Nagare and Kotake looked at her uncomprehendingly. Hirai saw how the two were looking at her. I didn't have a place where I could be, she added, and took another drag of her cigarette. What do you mean? Kay asked with a look of concern. In answer to Kay's question, Hirai replied as if talking about any ordinary thing. The accident happened on her way home from seeing me, right? So naturally my parents blame me for her death. How could they think that? Kay asked with her mouth agape. Hirai blew a plume of smoke into the air. Well, they do, and in a way it's true, she muttered dismissively. She kept coming down to Tokyo time and time again, and each time I would turn her away. The last time, Kay had helped Hirai avoid Kumi by hiding. She now looked down with a look of regret. Hirai continued talking and taking no notice of Kay. Both my parents refused to talk to me. Hirai's smile faded from her face. Not one word. Hirai had heard of Kumi's death from the head waitress who had worked at her parents' inn for many years. It had been years since Hirai had answered a call from the inn, but 2 days ago, early in the morning, the inn's number flashed upon her phone. When she saw who it was, her heart skipped a bit and she answered it. The only thing she could say in response to the teary head waitress who was calling was, I see, and she hung up. Then she picked up her bag and headed to her family home by taxi. The taxi driver claimed to be a former entertainer. On their journey, she gave her an unsolicited sample of his comedic act. His stories were unexpectedly funny and she rolled around in the confines of the backseat roaring with laughter. She laughed long and hard, with tears streaming down her face. Finally, the taxi pulled up front of the inn, Takakura, Hirai's family home. It was 5 hours from the city and the taxi fare was over 150,000 yen. But as she was paying in cash, the driver said a nice round number would be nice and drove off in high spirits. When she got out from the taxi, she realized that she was still wearing slippers. She also had curlies in her hair. Wearing only camisole, she felt the hot morning sun hit her with full force. When the large beads of sweat began dripping down her body, she wished she had a handkerchief. She began to walk up the gravel path to her family home at the rear of the inn, where her family lived and designed in a Japanese style and had not been altered in any way since it was built at the same time as the inn. She passed a large roof gate and came to the front entrance. It had been 13 years since she was last there, but nothing had changed. To her, it seemed a place where time stood still. She tried opening the sliding door. It was unlocked. The door rattled open and she stepped into the concrete inside. It was cold. The chill of the air was enough to send a shiver down her spine. She walked from the entrance down the hallway to the living room. The room was completely dark with no sign of life. This was quite normal. Rooms in all Japanese houses tend to be dark, but she found the darkness oppressive. The hallway was completely quiet except for the creaking of her footsteps. The family altar was in a room at the end of the hallway. When she looked into the altar room, it was open to the veranda. There she saw her father, Yasuo's small rounded back. He was sitting on the edge, looking out at the lush green garden. Kumi was laying there silently. She was dressed in a white robe, and hanging over her pink kimono worn by the head of the woman of the inn. Yasuo must have just moved from her side, as his hand was still gripping the white cloth that would normally cover the face of the dead. Her mother, Michiko, was not there. Hirai sat down and peered at Kumi's face. So peaceful was it that it looked like she was just sleeping. As Hirai gently passed her face, she whispered, "Thank God." If her face had been badly cut in the accident, her body would have been laid in the coffin wrapped up like a mummy. This is what was running through her mind as she looked at Kumi's pretty face. The thought had been troubling her, having heard that Kumi collided head-on with a truck. Her father, Yasuo, kept gazing out at the courtyard garden. "Father," Hirai called out in a stilted voice to Yasuo's back. It was to be her first conversation with her father since she left home 13 years ago, but Yasuo remained seated with his back to her, his only response being a sniffle. Hirai looked at Kumi's face a while longer and slowly rose and quietly left the room. She went into Sendai town, where preparations for the Tanabata festival were underway. With curlers still in her hair, she trudged around until dusk, still in her slippers and camisole. She bought something to wear to the funeral and found a hotel. At the funeral, the next day, she saw her mother, Michiko, putting on a brave face alongside her father, who had broken down in tears. Rather than sitting in the row of seats for the family, she sat with the rest of the mourners. Just once, she made eye contact with her mother, but no words passed between them. The funeral went smoothly. Hirai offered incense and left without speaking to anyone. The column of ash lengthened on Hirai's cigarette and fell silently. She watched it all fall. "Yes, and that's that," she said, stubbing out the cigarette. Nagare's head was bowed. Kotake sat motionless with her cup in her hand. Kei looked directly at Hirai with concern. Hirai looked at these three faces and sighed. "I'm no good with all this serious stuff," she let out in exasperation. "Hirai," Kei began, but Hirai waved her hands to stop her. So lose the sad faces and stop asking if I'm alright," she pleaded. She could see that there was something that Kei wanted to say, and so she kept talking. "I might not look like it, but I'm really upset. But come on, guys, I need to overcome this by putting on my best foot forward, don't I?" She spoke as if she's trying to reassure a tearful child. She was not that kind of person, inscrutable to the end. If Kei was in her shoes, she would have been crying for days. If it were Kotake, she would have observed the mourning period, lamented the disease, behaved with propriety. But Hirai was neither Kei or Kotake. "I'll mourn how I mourn. Everyone is different," Hirai said, and with that, she stood up and picked up her handbag. "So that's how things are," she said, and began to walk to the door. "So why visit the cafe now?" Nagare muttered as if to himself. Hirai froze like a stop-motion frame. "Why come here rather than going directly back to yours? He asked bluntly, keeping his back to her. Hirai stood there silently for a while. Bastard, she sighed. She turned around and walked back to where she had been sitting. Nagare didn't look at her. He just carried on staring at the bottle of salt in his hand. She returned to her seat and sat down in the chair. Hirai, Kay said as she was approaching, holding a letter. I still have it. You didn't throw it out? She recognized it instantly. She was pretty sure it was the one Kumi had written and left at the cafe 3 days ago. She had asked Kay to throw it out without having read any of it. Her hand trembled as she took it, the last letter that Kumi had ever written. I never imagined I would hand it to you under such circumstances, Kay said with her head bowed apologetically. No, of course not. Thank you, Hirai replied. She put out a letter folded in half from the unsealed envelope, and the contents were just as she had thought. It was always the same. But though the letter was filled with the same old irritating things, a single teardrop fell from her eyes. I didn't even meet her and now this happened, she said, sniffing. Only she never gave up on me. She came to Tokyo to see me again and again. The first time Kumi came to visit Hirai in Tokyo, Hirai was 24 and Kumi was 18. But back then, Kumi was the cuddly little sister who contacted her every now and then behind her parents' back. Still, only in her senior high school, she was already helping at the inn when she wasn't at school. When Hirai left home, her parents' expectations were immediately transferred to Kumi. Before she had even come to age, she had become the face of the old inn. The future owner Kumi's efforts to persuade Hirai to return to the family began then. Despite being busy with her responsibilities, Kumi found the time to visit Tokyo once every couple of months. At first, when Hirai still saw Kumi as her cuddly younger sister, she would meet her and listen to what she had to say. But there came a point when Kumi's request began to feel like an annoying imposition. For the last 2 years, for that matter, Hirai had completely avoided her. The final time, she had hidden from her in this very cafe and tried to throw away what Kumi had written to her. She put the letter that Kay had rescued back in the envelope. I know the rule. The present doesn't change no matter how hard you try. I fully understand that. Take me back to that day. I'm begging you. Hirai's face was now far more serious than it had ever been. She bowed her head deeply. Nagare's narrow eyes narrowed further as he looked down at Hirai's bowing deeply. Naturally, Nagare knew that day that Hirai was referring to. 3 days ago when Kumi had visited the cafe, she was asking to go back and meet her. Kei and Kotake waited and bated breath for Nagare's reply. The room became eerily silent. Only the woman in the dress continued to behave as if nothing was wrong, continuing to read her novel. Plunk! The sound of Nagare's putting the bottle of salt on the counter echoed throughout the cafe. Then, without a word, he walked away and disappeared into the back room. Hirai lifted her head and took a large, deep breath. From the back room, Nagare's voice could be faintly heard calling for Kazu. But Hirai, yeah, I know. Hirai interrupted Kotake, so she didn't have to hear what she was going to say. She walked up to the woman in the dress. I was just saying to the others, could I sit there, please? Hirai, Kei said frantically. Can you do this for me, please? Ignoring Kei, Hirai put her hands together as if she was praying to a god. She looked faintly ridiculous as she did so, but she seemed genuinely serious. But the woman in the dress did not even flinch. This made Hirai irate. Hey, can you hear me? Don't just ignore me. Can't you just give me that seat? She said while putting her hands on the woman's shoulder. No, Hirai, stop! You must not! Please! She wasn't listening to Kay. She tried to pull the woman's arm by force to take the seat from her. Hirai, stop! Kay yelled. But at that moment, the woman in the dress eyes opened wide and glared at Hirai. Instantly, she was overwhelmed by the sensation that she was becoming heavier. Many times over, it felt as if the Earth's gravity had begun multiplying. The cafe's lighting suddenly seemed reduced to candlelight, flickering in the wind, and an eerily ghostly wailing began reverberating throughout the cafe, with no signs of where it was coming from. Unable to move a muscle, she fell to her knees. What is this? Well, you could have listened. Kay sighed dramatically with an air of I told you so. Hirai was familiar with the rules, but she didn't know anything about the curse. What she knew had been put together from explanation given to customers who had come wanting to go back to the past, and they had normally given up on the idea upon hearing the overly complicated rules. She's a demon, a hag, she shouted. No, she's just a ghost, Kay interjected coolly. From the floor, Hirai was hurling insults at the woman in the dress, but such abuse was useless. Oh, Kazu exclaimed as she appeared from the back room. One look told her what had happened. She darted back into the kitchen and came out carrying a carafe filled with coffee. She walked up to the woman in the dress. Would you care for some more coffee? Kazu asked. Yes, please, the woman in the dress replied, and Hirai was released. Strangely, Kazu was the only one who could lift the curse. When Kei or Nagare had tried to do it, it hadn't worked. Now free, Hirai returned to normal. She started panting heavily. Looking very worn out by the ordeal, she turned to Kazu. Kazu, love, please say something to her. Get her to move, she cried. Okay, I understand what you're going through, Hirai. Can you do something? Kazu looked down at the carafe she was holding in her hands. She thought for a few moments. I cannot say whether this will work or not. Hirai was desperate enough to try anything. Whatever, please do this for me, she pleaded, holding her hands in prayer. Okay, let's try it. Kazu walked up to the woman in the dress with Kei's help. Hirai returned to the standing and watched to see what was about to happen. Would you care for some coffee? Kazu asked again despite the cup being still full to the brim. Hirai and Kotake both tilted their heads sideways, unable to work out what Kazu was doing. But the woman in the dress responded to the offer of a refill. Yes, please, she replied, and drank the entire cup of coffee that had been poured for her just moments before. Kazu then filled the empty cup with coffee. Then the woman in the dress then proceeded to read the novel as if nothing out of the ordinary had happened. Then straight afterwards, would you care for some more coffee? Kazu asked again. The woman in the dress still had not touched the coffee since the last refill. The cup remained completely full, and yet the woman in the dress again replied, yes, please, and proceeded to down the entire coffee. Well, who would have thought, Kotake said, her expression slowly changing as she realized what Kazu was doing. Kazu continued with her outlandish plan. After filling the cup with coffee, she would offer again, would you care for some more coffee? She went on doing this, and every time it was offered, the woman in the dress would reply, yes, please, and drink it down. But after a while, the woman began to look uncomfortable. Rather than drinking the coffee down in one go, she began to take several sips to finish it. Using this method, Kazu managed to get the woman in the dress to drink 7 cups of coffee. She looked so uncomfortable. Why doesn't she refuse? Kotake commented, sympathizing with the woman in the dress. She cannot refuse, Kei whispered in Kotake's ears. Why not? Because apparently that's the rule. Goodness, Kotake said in surprise to the fact that it wasn't only those traveling back in time who had to follow the annoying rules. She watched on, eager to see what would happen next. Kazu poured an eighth coffee, filling the cup almost to the point of overflowing. The woman in the dress winced, but Kazu was relentless. Would you care for some more coffee? When Kazu offered the ninth cup of coffee, the woman in the dress suddenly stood up from her seat. She stood up! Kotake exclaimed in excitement. Toilet, the woman in the dress mumbled, glaring directly at Kazu and headed off to the toilet. It had taken some coercion, but that seat had been vacated. Thank you, Hirai said as she staggered over to the seat where the woman in the dress had been sitting. Hirai's nervousness seemed to affect everyone in the cafe. She drew in a large, deep breath and slowly exhaled and slid in between the table and the chair. She sat down and gently closed her eyes. Kumi Hirai had always been, since she was a young girl, a little sister who followed her big sister around, calling out big sis this and big sis that. The all-in was always very busy no matter the season. Her father was a proprietor and the mother the proprietress. The mother, Michiko, went back to work soon after she was born. Often, the task of watching over her, still a young baby, fell to the 6-year-old Hirai. When she started elementary school, Hirai would give her piggyback to the school. It was a country school and the teachers were understanding. If she started crying in class, Hirai was able to take her out of class to comfort her. In school, Hirai was a reliable big sister, diligent in looking after her little sister. Hirai's parents had great hopes for Hirai, who was naturally sociable and likable. They thought she would become an excellent manager of the inn, but her parents had underestimated the intricacies of her character. Specifically, she was free-spirited. She wanted to do things without having to worry what others thought. Hello, Takiyana. Hello. Her behavior meant that her parents didn't worry about her, but it was precisely this free-spiritedness that ultimately led her to her refusal of her parents' wish that she would someday take over the inn. She didn't hate her parents, nor she did hate the inn. She simply lived for her freedom. At 18, she left home when Kumi was 12. Her parents' anger at her leaving home was just as intense as the expectation that had held that she would be their successor, and they cut her off. While the shock of her leaving weighed heavy on her parents, Kumi also took it badly. But Kumi must have sensed that she was going to leave. When she left, Kumi did not cry or appear heartbroken. She just muttered, "She's so selfish," when she saw the letter that Hirai had left for her. Kazu was standing beside Hirai and carrying a white coffee cup and silver kettle on a silver tray. Her face had an elegant, calm expression. "You know the rules? I know the rules." Kumi had visited the cafe while it wouldn't be possible to change the fact that she died in the accident. Hirai, now sitting in the right seat, and however short the time she would have in the past, if she could see Kumi one last time, it would be worth it. Hirai gave a deep nod and prepared herself. But regardless of her preparedness, Kazu continued to speak. People who go back to the past to meet a person now deceased can get caught up in the emotion. So even though they know there is a time limit, they become unable to say goodbye. So I want you to have this. Kazu placed a small stick about 10 centimeters long into Hirai's cup of coffee, the kind you might use to stir a cocktail. It looked a little bit like a spoon. What's this? This sounds an alarm just before the coffee gets cold. So if the alarm sounds, okay, I know, I understand. Okay? The vagueness of the deadline just before the coffee gets cold worried Hirai. Even if she thought the coffee was cold, there still might be time remaining, or she might think the coffee still had enough heat in it that she might make the mistake of staying too long and never making back. An alarm made things much simpler and calm her anxiety. All she wanted to do was apologize. Kumi had made the effort to come to visit her time and time again, but Hirai saw it only as a nuisance. Apart from the matter of how she had treated Kumi so unkindly, there was also the matter of Kumi being made the successor of Takakura. When Hirai left home and was cut off from the family, Kumi automatically became the successor. She was too obliging to betray the expectations of her parents. So Hirai had done. But what if this had shattered a dream that she had held? If she once had a dream ruined by Hirai's selfish decision to run away, it would explain why she had so often visited Hirai to beg her to return home. She would want Hirai to come back so that she could have the freedom to pursue her own ambitions. If Hirai had found her freedom in Kumi's expense, then it would only be natural for her to feel resentful. Now, there was no way of ending Hirai's regret. This was all the more reason for her to apologize. If she could not change the present, then at least she could say sorry. Please forgive your selfish big sister. Hirai looked into Kazu's eyes and gave a firm, definite nod. Kazu put the coffee in front of Hirai. She picked up the silver kettle from the tray with her right hand and looked at Hirai from underneath her lowered brow. This was the ceremony. The ceremony did not change, no matter who was sitting in that seat. Kazu's expression were part of it. Just remember. Kazu paused and then whispered, "Drink the coffee before it goes cold." She began to slowly pour the coffee, which flowed soundlessly from the silver kettle narrow spout, like a single black thread. Hirai watched the surface of the liquid as it rose. The longer the coffee took to fill the cup, the more impatient she became. She wanted to go back and meet her little sister without delay. She wanted to see her to apologize, but the coffee would start cooling the moment the cup was filled. She had precious little time. Shimmering steam rose from the filled cup. Looking at it, Hirai began to experience an overwhelming dizziness. Her body became one with the steam that engulfed her, and she felt like she was beginning to rise. Although it was the first time experiencing this, she didn't find it at all frightening. Feeling her impatience subside, she gently closed her eyes. Hirai first visited the cafe 7 years before. She was 24 and had been running her bar for about 3 months. One Sunday at the end of autumn, she was strolling around the neighborhood and casually popped into the cafe to check it out. The only customers were a woman in a white dress and herself. It was the time of the year when people started wearing scarves, but the woman in the dress was in short sleeves. Thinking that she must be a little chilly even if she was inside, Hirai sat at the counter. She looked around the room, but there was no staff members in sight. When the bell had rung as she entered the cafe, she hadn't heard anyone call out, "Hello, welcome," as she might have expected. She got this impression that this cafe was not big on customer service. But this didn't put her off. The kind of place that didn't follow conventions appealed to her. She decided to stay and wait. to see if anyone who worked there would make an appearance. Perhaps sometimes the bell went unnoticed. She was suddenly curious as to whether this often happened. Also, the woman in the dress had not noticed her. She just kept on reading her book. Hirai got the feeling that she had mistakenly stumbled into a cafe on a day that when it was closed. After about 5 minutes, the bell rang and came a girl who looked like she might be in junior high school. She casually said, "Hello, welcome," without any sense of urgency, and walked into the back room. Hirai was overjoyed by this. She had found a cafe that didn't pander to customers. That meant freedom. There was no way of anticipating just when one would get served. She liked this kind of cafe. It was a refreshing change from the places that treated you like the same old predictable way. She lit the cigarette and waited leisurely. After a while, a woman from the back room, by this time Hirai was smoking her second cigarette. The woman was wearing beige knit cardigan and long white skirt with wine red apron over it. She had big round eyes. The schoolgirl must have told her that they had a customer, but she entered the room in a laid-back, casual manner. The woman with the big round eyes showed no sense of urgency either. She poured some water into the glass and set it in front of Hirai. "Hello, welcome." She smiled as if everything was normal. A customer who expected to be treated in a special manner might have expected an apology for the slow service at least, but Hirai didn't want or expect such services. The woman didn't show any sign that she had behaved wrongly, but instead smiled warmly. Hirai had never met another uninhibited woman who did things at her own pace as she always did herself. She took an instant liking to her. Treat them mean, keep them keen. That was Hirai's motto. From then on, Hirai started visiting the funikura every day. During the winter, she discovered the cafe could return you to the past. She thought it was odd that the woman in the dress was always in short sleeve. When she asked, "She must be cold, don't you think?" Kay explained about the woman in the dress and how you could return to the past if you sat in that seat. Hirai replied, "You don't say," though it sounded unbelievable to her. But as she didn't think Kay would tell a lie like that, she let it go for the time being. It was about 6 months later that the urban legend surrounding the cafe spread and its popularity grew. But even once Hirai knew about the traveling to the past, she never once considered doing so herself. She lived life in the fast lane and had no regrets whatsoever. And what was the point anyway, she thought, if the rules meant that you couldn't change the present no matter how hard you tried? That was until Kumi died in the traffic accident. Amidst the shimmering, Hirai suddenly heard her name being called. When she heard this familiar voice, she opened her eyes with a start. Looking in the direction of the voice, she saw Kay standing there, wearing a wine-red apron. Her big round eyes showed she was surprised to see Hirai. Fusagi was in the cafe, sitting at the table closest to the entrance. It was exactly the scene that Hirai remembered. She had returned to that day, the day when Kumi was still alive. Hirai felt her heart beat quicken. She had to relax. The tension felt like cords stretched as far as they would go as she struggled to maintain her fragile composure. She pictured her eyes becoming red and swollen with tears and becoming choked up. That was not at all how she wanted to look when she met Kumi. She placed her hand on her heart, inhaled slowly and deeply to settle herself. "Hello," she greeted Kay. Kay, caught by surprise at having someone she knew suddenly appear in that seat. Looking both startled and intrigued, she addressed Hirai as if it was the first time she had such a visitor. "What? You came from the future?" "Yeah." "Really? What on earth for?" The Kay of the past had no idea what happened. It was a straight question, innocently asked. Oh, I've just come to see my sister. Hirai wasn't in a position to lie. She tightened her grip on the letter as she held in her lap. The one who is always coming to persuade you to come home? Yeah, that's the one. Well, that makes a change. Aren't you normally trying to avoid her? Well, not today. Today I'm going to see her. Hirai tried her best to reply cheerfully. She had meant to laugh, but her eyes were not laughing. She was unable to produce a single twinkle. She didn't know where to direct her gaze either. If Kay got a good look at her, she would see straight through her. Even now, she knew Kay could sense that something was wrong. Did something happen? Kay asked in a whisper. She couldn't say anything for a while. Then, in an unconvincing tone, she said, Oh, nothing, nothing. Water flows from high places to low places. That is the nature of gravity. Emotions also seem to act according to gravity. When in the presence of someone with whom you have a bond and to whom you have entrusted your feelings, it is hard to lie and get away with it. The truth just wants to come flowing out. This is especially the case when you're trying to hide your sadness or vulnerability. It is much easier to conceal sadness from a stranger or from someone who you don't trust. Hirai saw Kay as a confidant with whom she could share anything with. The emotional gravity was strong. Kay was able to accept anything, forgive anything that Hirai let flow out. A single kind word from Kay could cut the cords of tension that ran through her. Thank you for the follow, Rotten Teeth Gaming. Thank you for a follow. Thank you so much for the support. At that moment, it would have been enough for Kay to say just one more kind thing, and the truth would have come pouring out. Kay was looking at her with concern. Hirai could tell even without looking, and was therefore desperately avoiding looking at her. Kay came out from behind the counter, bothered by Hirai's reluctance to look at her. Then the bell rang. Hello, welcome, said Kay, coming to a standstill as she automatically called out to the entrance. But Hirai knew it was Kumi. The hands on the middle wall clock said it was 3 o'clock, and Hirai knew that the middle clock was the only one of the three that showed the correct time. This was the time that Kumi visited the cafe 3 days earlier. On that day, Hirai had been forced to hide behind the counter. The arrangement of the cafe, located in a basement with only one entrance, left her no choice. The only way in or out was via the stairs that led to the streets. Hirai always turned up at the cafe after lunchtime. She would order coffee, chat with Kay, and then head off to work. That day, she had stood up from her seat, planning to open her bar early. She remembered looking at the middle wall clock to check the time, exactly 3 o'clock. A little early, but she thought she might try her hand at making some snacks for a change. She had finished paying for the coffee and was just about to leave. She actually had her hand on the door when she heard Kumi's voice from the top of the stairs. Kumi was coming down while talking to someone on the phone. In a panic, Hirai doubled back into the cafe and ran and hid behind the counter. The bell rang. Hirai glimpsed Kumi entering the room as she ducked down. That was the story of her not meeting her sister 3 days earlier. Now, Hirai was sitting in that seat, waiting for Kumi to come walking in. She realized she couldn't imagine what clothes Kumi was wearing. She hadn't seen her face properly for years. In fact, she couldn't remember the last time she had. It made her realize just how consistently she had avoided her sister's visit. Now, her chest was full of regret. The pain intensified as she recalled the lowly tactics she had employed to avoid her. But right in that moment, she could not allow herself to cry. She never had once cried in front of her sister. That meant Kumi would not consider it normal if she broke down in front of her right now. She would want to know if something had happened. Put in that position, Hirai thought she would crumble. Despite knowing that the present would not change, she would nevertheless say, "You have a car crash. Take the train home or don't go home today." But that would be the worst thing that she could say. She would end up being in a harbinger of death, upsetting Kumi beyond measure. She had to avoid that happening at all costs. Causing her further suffering was the last thing she wanted to do. She took a deep breath to try to calm herself unwieldy emotions. "Big sis?" Hearing that voice, Hirai's heart skipped a bit. It was Kumi's voice, a voice she had thought she would never hear again. She slowly opened her eyes to see her sister at the entrance looking back at her. "Hi there." Hirai lifted her hand, waved, and smiled as widely as she could. The strained look that she had been wearing was gone, but in her lap, clenched in her left hand, was the letter. Kumi stared at her. Hirai could understand her confusion. Until now, every time Hirai had seen her, she made no effort to hide her awkwardness. She normally adopted the coldness to convey to her that she just wanted to hurry up and leave, but this time was different. She was looking at Kumi and giving her a full-face smile. And usually reluctant to even make eye contact, she was now looking at her and nothing else. "Wow, this is strange. What's up with you today?" "What do you mean? I mean, in all these years you never been easy to find." "You think?" "I know." "Oh, Kumi, I'm sorry about that," Hirai said, shrugging her shoulders. Kumi slowly approached her as if she was starting to feel more comfortable with her apparent change of heart. Could I order, please?" "I would like a coffee, some toast, and then curry rice and a mixed parfait," she called out to Kay, who was standing behind the counter. "I'll get right on it," Kay said, glancing briefly over at Hirai. Recognizing the Hirai she knew, she seemed much more at ease as she disappeared into the kitchen. "Can I sit here?" Kumi asked Hirai hesitantly as she pulled out the chair. "Of course," Hirai replied with a smile. Elated, Kumi broke into a smile, taking the chair opposite and slowly sat down. For a while, neither talked. They just looked at each other, Kumi fidgeting and couldn't seem to relax. Hirai just kept looking at her, happy just to stare. Kumi returned to her steady gaze. "It's definitely pretty strange today," she mumbled. "How so?" "It feels like something we haven't done for ages. Just sitting here looking at each other." "We haven't?" "Oh, come on. The last time I came, I was standing at your front door and you wouldn't let me in. The last time. Before that, you ran away with me, chasing after you. Before that, you crossed the street to avoid me, and then before that..." "Pretty awful, wasn't it?" Hirai agreed. She knew that Kumi could keep going on. It was obvious what was really happening when she pretended not to be home when her apartment lights were on, when she acted like she was really drunk and said, "Who are you?" pretending that she didn't recognize her. She never read Kumi's letters, she just threw them away. Even the last letter, she was an awful big sister. "Well, that's how you are." "I'm sorry, Kumi, I'm really sorry," Hirai said, poking her tongue out, trying to lift the mood. Kumi couldn't let it go. "So, tell me the truth. What happened?" she asked with a worried look. "Huh? What do you mean?" "Come on, you're acting all weird. You think? Has something happened?" "No. Nothing like that," Hirai said, trying to sound natural. The awkwardness and worry in Kumi's look made Hirai feel like it was her who was living in her final hours, like someone in a sentimental television drama suddenly redeeming herself in the face of death. She felt her eyes redden at a cruel irony. She wasn't the one who was going to die. Overwhelmed by a wave of emotion, she could no longer maintain eye contact and lowered her gaze. Here we go. Kay appeared with the coffee just in time. Hirai quickly. Thank you, Bookster, for the follow. Thank you so much for the support. Thank you. Here we go. Kay appeared with the coffee just in time. Hirai quickly lifted her face again. Thank you, Kumi said, politely nodding. Not at all. Kumi placed the coffee on the table, gave a little bow, and returned to behind the counter. The flow of conversation had been interrupted. Hirai was lost for words. Ever since Kumi had appeared in the cafe, Hirai had wanted to hug her tightly and yell, "Don't die!" The effort alone of not saying this was keeping her busy. As the pause in the conversation grew longer, Kumi began to get restless. She was fidgeting out of discomfort, bending a letter pad she held on her lap. She kept glancing at the ticking wall clock. Hirai could see what she was thinking by how she was behaving. Kumi was choosing her words carefully. Looking down, she was rehearsing in her head what she wanted to say. Of course, the request in itself was simple. Please come home. But articulating this was a struggle. It was so hard to say because every time she had raised it over the last several years, Hirai had flatly refused. The more she had repeatedly declined and refused. Ooh, I'll read it later. Refused, the colder she had become. Kumi had never given up, no matter how many times her sister refused, but she never got used to hearing no. Each time she heard it, it hurt her and it made her sad. When Hirai thought about how hard it must have been for Kumi to have made to feel this way again and again, the tension in her chest felt like it had reached a breaking point and snapped. For so long, Kumi had had to bear all these feelings. At that moment, she was imagining that Hirai would once again refuse, and naturally this left her at a loss. Each time she battled tenaciously to find the courage, but she never gave up, ever. She looked up and stared directly and boldly into Hirai's eyes. Hirai didn't look away. She looked directly at Kumi, who took a short breath and was about to speak. "Okay, I don't mind coming home," Hirai replied. Technically, it wasn't a reply because Kumi hadn't said anything yet, but Hirai had known all too well what she was going to ask, and so responded to what she expected to say. "I want you to come home." Kumi's face betrayed her confusion, as if she didn't understand what Hirai had just said. "What?" Hirai responded gently and clearly. "Okay, I don't mind going home to Takakura." Kumi's face still showed disbelief. "Really? Kumi?" "But you know I wouldn't be much use, don't you?" Hirai said apologetically. "That's okay. No problem. You can just learn the work as you go. Dad and Mom would be so pleased, I'm sure." "Really?" "Of course they will," Kumi replied and made a deep nod. Her face swiftly turned red and she burst into tears. "What's up?" This time it was Hirai's turn to be dismayed. She knew the reasons for Kumi's tears. If Hirai returned to Takakura, she would reclaim her freedom. Her persistent efforts over so many years to persuade Hirai had paid off. It was no wonder that she was so happy, but Hirai had never imagined it would lead to so much crying. This has always been my dream," Kumi muttered, looking down, her tears spilling onto the table. Hirai's heart beat wildly, so did Kumi. So Kumi did have her own dreams. She had wanted to do something too. Hirai's selfishness had robbed her of that, a dream worth crying for. She thought should she thought she should know exactly what she had got in the way of. What dream? She asked Kumi. With red, teary eyes, Kumi looked up and took a deep breath. To run the inn together with you, she replied. Her face transformed into a big smile. Never had Hirai seen Kumi show such an ecstatic, happy smile. Hirai thought back to what she had said to Kay on this day. She resents me. She didn't want it passed down to her. I keep telling her I don't want to go home, but she keeps on asking time and time again. Saying that she was persistent would be an understatement. I don't want to see it. I see it written on her face. Because of what I did, she is now going to become an owner of an inn she doesn't want to run. She wants me to come home so that she can be free. I feel she is pressuring me. Throw it away. I can imagine what it says. It's really tough for me by myself. Please come home. It's okay if you learn the ropes. If you come. Hirai had said all those things, but she was wrong. Kumi didn't resent her. Nor was it true that she didn't want to inherit the inn. The reason that Kumi didn't give up to persuade Hirai to return was because that was her dream. It wasn't because she wanted her own freedom. It wasn't because she was blaming her. It was her dream to run the inn together with Hirai. That dream had not changed, and nor had her little sister, who were there in front of her with tears of joy streaming down her face. Her little sister Kumi, who had loved her big sister with all her heart, had time after time come to persuade her to return to her family, never giving up. While her parents had disowned her, Kumi had hung on to the belief that Hirai would come home. How sweet a little sister she was, always the little girl, always following her round. Big sis, big sis. Hirai felt more love for Kumi than she ever had before, but the little sister that she loved so much now was gone. Hirai's sense of regret grew. Don't die on me. I don't want you to die. Kumi. Hirai called her name in a soft voice, as if it had just slipped out. Even if the effort was futile, she wanted to stop Kumi's death. But Kumi didn't seem to have heard Hirai. Wait a minute. Got to go to the toilet. I just need to fix my makeup. Kumi said, getting up from her seat and walking away. Kumi! Hirai called out, hearing her name suddenly scream in that way stopped Kumi in her tracks. What? She asked, looking startled. Hirai didn't know what to say. Nothing she said would change the present. Nothing. Sorry. Of course it wasn't nothing. Don't go. Don't die. Sorry. Please forgive me. If you hadn't come to meet me, you wouldn't have died. There were so many things she wanted to say and apologize for, selfishly leaving home, expecting Kumi to look after their parents, leaving it to her to take on the role of heir. Not only she had neglected to think how hard that was for her family, she had never imagined what really led Kumi to take time from her busy schedule to come to see her. I see now that you suffered by having me as your older sister. I am sorry, but none of these feelings could be formed into words. She had never understood. But what should she say? And what did she want to say? Kumi was looking at her kindly. Even if nothing was forthcoming, she still wanted her to speak. She understood that she had something she wanted to say. How kindly you look at me after I have been so horrible for so long. You held on to these kind feelings while you continued to wait for me for so long, always wishing we could work together at the inn, never giving up. But after a long silence of being lost in her feelings, Hirai managed to mutter just 2 words. Thank you. She didn't know whether that one phrase could contain all these feelings or whether it conveyed how she felt.
but every part of her at that moment was invested in those 2 words. Kumi looked perplexed for a moment and then replied with a big grin. Yeah, you're definitely acting strange today. Yeah, I guess, Hirai said, squeezing out her last strength to produce her biggest and best smile. Visibly happy, Kumi shrugged and twirled round and headed to the toilet. Hirai watched her walk away. Tears welled up in her eyes. She felt she could no longer stem the flow. Yet she did not blink. She fixed her gaze on Kumi's back, watching her until she disappeared. As soon as Kumi was out of sight, she dropped her head and tears fell from her face and landed like rain on the table. She felt the grief surge from the bottom of her heart. She wanted to scream and bawled, but she couldn't cry out. If she did, Kumi would hear it. She desperately covered her mouth to stop herself from yelling her sister's name, and with her shoulders trembling, she muted her voice and cried. From the kitchen, Kay called out to her, concerned by her strange behavior. You okay, Hirai? Beep, 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 beep. The sound suddenly came from the coffee cup, the alarm warning that the coffee was about to get cold. Oh no, the alarm! Kay understood everything when she heard it. The alarm was only used when a person was visiting someone who had died. Oh dear, her sweet little sister! With Kumi in the toilet, Kay looked over at Hirai. Surely no, she muttered in dread. Hirai saw how Kay was looking at her and simply nodded sadly. Kay looked distressed. Hirai, she called. I know, she said, grabbing the coffee cup. I've got to drink up, right? She didn't say anything. She couldn't say anything. Hirai held up the cup. She breathed in, exhaled with a moan, filled with all the painful grief seeping from her heart. I just want to see her face one more time, but if I do, I won't be able to return. Hirai's shaking hand brought the cup to her lips. She had to drink up. Tears surged once again from her eyes. A rush of thoughts crossed her mind. Why did this happen? Why did she have to die? Why didn't I say that I would go home earlier? The cup stopped a short distance from her lip and didn't move. After a moment, I can't drink it. She put the cup down. Totally drained of strength, she had no idea what she wanted to do or why she had gone back to the past. All she knew that she loved her little sister. She was precious to her, and now she was gone. If I drink this coffee now, I will never see my sister again. Even though I finally made her smile, it will never happen again. Yet, she knew she would never be able to drink the coffee with Kumi's face in front of her. Hirai! I can't drink it! Kay could see how distressed Hirai was. She bit her lip and looked grave. You just promised, she said with a trembling voice. You just promised your sister, didn't you, that you would return to the inn? Kumi's happy, elated smile was branded onto the back of her closed eyelids. You just said that you would run it alongside with her. Hirai imagined that Kumi was alive. They were working happily together at the inn. The sound of the early morning call rang in her head, but the image of Kumi lying there as if she was sleeping flashed before her. Kumi was gone. What was she to do once she returned to the present? Her heart seemed to have lost all desire to return. Kay was crying too, but Hirai had never heard such determination in her voice. That means you have to return. That makes it more important than ever. How so? How unhappy would your sister be if she knew that your promise was only made for today? She would be devastated, don't you think? Yes, Kay is right. Kumi told me it was her dream to work with me, and I promised her that was the first time I had ever seen Kumi so happy. I cannot act as if that smiling face never happened. I cannot let her down again. I have to return to the present and to Takakura, and even if Kumi was dead, I promised her when she was alive I have to make sure her happiness was for something. Hirai grabbed the cup, but I want to see Kumi's face one more time. That was her last dilemma, but when waiting to see Kumi's face would mean not being able to return to the present. This was something that Hirai was all too aware of, yet though she knew that she had to drink up the coffee, the distance between the cup and the mouth remained the same. Clack! She faintly heard the sound of the toilet door opening. At the moment she had heard the sound, her instinct took over her and she downed the coffee. She couldn't afford to hesitate. All rational thinking had been put aside. She felt her entire body reacting intuitively. The moment she drank the coffee, the dizziness returned and she felt like her entire body was blending into the steam that now surrounded her entire body. She resigned herself to never seeing Kumi ever again, but just then she returned from the toilet. Kumi! Amidst the shimmering, part of Hirai's consciousness was still in the past. Huh? Big sis? Kumi had returned, but she seemed unable to see Hirai. She was looking at that seat, the one Hirai had just been sitting in, with a puzzled look on her face. Kumi! Hirai's voice did not reach her. The now fading Kumi looked at Kei, who was standing with her back turned behind the counter. Excuse me, I don't suppose you know where my sister went, do you? She asked. Kei turned around and smiled at her. She had to go suddenly. On hearing this, Kumi looked bereft. It must have been a disappointment. She finally met her sister, and then she suddenly left. She had said that she would return home. But the reunion was short and sweet. It was only natural that she felt anxious. She sighed and slumped in her chair. Kay saw how she reacted to this news. Don't worry. Your sister said that she would keep her promise, she said, winking in the direction of where Hirai, reduced to the steam, was watching. Kay, you are a savior. Thank you. Hirai began crying, touched by Kei's support. Kumi stood and was silent for a moment. Really? She asked, with a broad smile spread over her face. Okay, great. Well, I'll be on my way home then. She bowed politely, then rose and walked out of the cafe with a spring in her step. Kumi! Hirai saw everything through shimmering steam. Kumi had smiled when she heard that Hirai would keep her promise. Everything around Hirai wound from start to finish like a film on fast forward. She continued to cry. She cried and cried and cried. The woman in the dress had returned from the toilet and was standing next to her. Kazu, Nagare, Kotake, and Kei were all there too. Hirai had returned to the present without Kumi. The woman in the dress paid no attention to Hirai's teary eyes. Move, she said disgruntledly. Ah, right, Hirai said, jumping from that seat. The woman in the dress sat back down in her seat. She pushed away the coffee cup that Hirai had drunk from and began reading her novel, as if nothing had happened. Hirai tried in vain to fix her tear-stained face. She let out a big sigh. I'm not sure they will welcome me back with open arms, and I wouldn't have a clue how to do the work, she continued, looking down at Kumi's final letters in her hands. If I went back like this, it shouldn't be a problem, should it? It seemed that Hirai planned to return to Takakura immediately, leaving the bar and everything else, just going. It was typical of Hirai to decide on something without feeling the need to think over other things first. She had made up her mind and her face showed no trace of doubt. Kei nodded reassuringly. I'm sure it will be fine, she answered cheerfully. She didn't ask Hirai what had happened in the past. She didn't need to. Hirai took out 380 yen from her purse to pay for the coffee. She gave it to Nagare and walked out of the cafe, light on her feet. Kei had walked out with Hirai to see her off. Now, she rubbed her stomach gently and whispered, "How wonderful was that?" While Nagare was entering the coffee money into the cash register, she looked solemnly at Kei rubbing her stomach in that way. I wonder if she can give it up. Without Nagare's expression changing, the bell echoed through the cafe. And that is the end of chapter 3 of Before the Coffee Gets Cold by Toshikazu Kawaguchi. I thought that chapter 3 wouldn't be this long, but it fits in time span that we arranged for, which is 2 hours of reading. It works perfectly fine. I have to stop reading depressing shit, do I? But that's life, isn't it? How do you can't. I'm not one who does escapism. I tend to like media that is very very realistic. I mean, this is time traveling, sure, but the emotions from it is very realistic. That's why I really appreciate the story. I really like it, actually. I think this one is very. It's unconventional. I think if you watch it as a play, I don't know. What do you guys think? If you watch it as a play, do you think it would be more effective than reading the book? Anyway, Yu Jung wants. Oh my god. I'm sorry, Zach. I just finished reading chapter 3. My apologies. But I will be. Oh, my apologies. But I'm happy that you are here. But yes, we start at 11 a.m. usually, which is about 2 hours ago. I don't know where you're from, but 11 a.m. GMT plus 8. Sorry, oh my god, stupid voice. Let me take a sip of tea. Now's the fun part. I don't know what happened to Ariana Grande, but completely changed appearance apparently through puberty. I like the look, so that's fine. Okay, Yu Jung wants me to do card of the day for him. So now is the fun part. You guys can claim anything you guys want to claim from the Banuna points redemption. So you can consider how many points you guys have. And now I'm going to do my single tarot card read for Yu Jung. So Yu Jung asks for card of the day, shuffle 8 times and just pick from the top. So here we go. Card of the day for Yu Jung. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You know what? A card just popped out. This is usually what we call a card that jumps out. That you don't have a choice to pick. It jumps out because it wants to come out for you. So a card just jumps out from my shuffle. So I don't have a choice. But I don't have a choice. You don't have a choice. This is going to be your card of the day because it just jumps out from the shuffle. Yeah, it's
Some people hope for it to happen that way. I don't usually look forward to it. I usually like to spread and pick. But when it jumps out, usually it means that it really wants to tell you something. So your card of the day is Eight of Wands. Wands, wands usually represent creativity. What do you mean? Yeah, creativity, enthusiasm, inspirations, self-expression, adventure, activity like just very. Wands usually represent something very lively. So Eight of Wands is your card of the day that jumps right out. It means the keywords for Eight of Wands is action, excitement, new experiences, and urgency. So there might be something that you need to do today that requires your attention and your urgency. I'm not sure what it is. Only you will know. You don't have to tell me as well. But that could be something that you need to do today, and you need to do it with a sense of urgency, and you this is not the time for you to procrastinate basically. So if you have something that you want that's crying out for your attention to do, please give it attention and do it. Don't procrastinate. Yeah. Why are you crying? Why are you crying? Yeah, but it's also can mean that it's something exciting. Oh my god. Did I? You don't just say thank you, Nuna, for making a better student. Yeah, just it's it's rushing. The If you Google the card Eight of Wands, it's like eight sticks like just rushing over to something. It usually means like there's a rush, there's an excitement, and there's a very quick pace of something that you need to do. But at the same time, it's not going to make you feel bothered or burdened because it's exciting to do. It's something exciting that you need to attend to. But when you're doing it, you will feel inspired, you will feel confident. And whatever that you need to do today, it will turn out well. So it's a good card. Eight of Wands is a good card. But then to me, there is not a single card in a tarot deck is a bad card. So that's the way I read it. Yeah. So whatever that needs your attention today, do it. You will be inspired and you will be excited to do it. And the outcome will be good. Regardless. Like, I mean, I can't tell the future. Tarot can't tell you the future either. It's not psychic power. It's just guidance, really. So take it as this is the time for you to act. Act on it with enthusiasm, with excitement, and confidence, and it will turn out good for you. If you act on it but you are being half-assed with it, don't expect it to be good. Okay? That's all for the reading of card of the day for Yujung. Anyone else who's interested? Deanne, do you want me to do yours, Deanne? I do Deanne's one for free because Deanne's my manager. If you want me to do it for you, I can do it for you now as well. You don't have to claim it. I can do it for free. Let me know. I can spare 5 minutes to do this before lunch. Is Deanne there? Deanne's like, oh, sure. Okay, instruction, please. One time and top. What card of the day or question? Do you have a question or is it card of the day? Hello, viewers. We are doing tarot card reading for my manager, Deanne. I'm waiting for her reply. I know one time card of the day. Okay, so Deanne wants to do a card of the day reading. The rest of the viewers, if you have enough to redeem the tarot card read, go ahead to redeem. If not, you can save it for another day. Alright, shuffle one time, pick from the top, card of the day for Deanne Azera. 1. Your card of the day is Queen of Wands. I think you got Queen of Wands the other day as well. I think I think Queen of Wands really like you. Yeah, Queen of Wands is giving you a thumbs up for today. You're going to have a very fruitful day. Yeah. Whatever that you want to do today, do it. And the Queen of Wands is giving you a thumbs up. Say hell yeah. Um, she could be someone in your life as well. Like sometimes the tarot can represent the picture on the tarot can represent someone in your life as well. So this Queen of Wands, the keywords are creativity, passion, prosperity, fruitfulness, and generosity. So it could be someone in your life today who would provide you with good advice, or help you with things, or or it could be yourself. It could be you. Being a loyal friend, being a very nurturing and generous person as yourself. It could represent you. So yeah, it's a very basically whatever that you want to do today. I'm not saying that it's going to be like 100% great day, but how you how do I say this? Basically, tarot or no tarot, how your day ends up depends on how you react to it. So, if you are looking for a chill and relaxing day, just chill and relax, really. Or if you're looking for a day where you want to produce something, work hard on something, let's say doing your homework, or make something out of your hands, like go to a pottery class or anything, you react how you react to that one thing that you want to do is what matters. So it doesn't matter what the tarot card tell you, card of the day or a question or anything like that. How you react to the thing throughout your day will be the outcome of your day, whether it is good or bad or bland. So if you want your day to be good, do good things, make other people happy, make yourself happy, do whatever that makes you happy. That's all matters. That's all that matters. Yeah. All right, it's lunch time for me, and I'm very, very hungry. I'm going to cut off my stream for the day. I mean, for right now. But tonight, on my usual Friday night stream, I do stream with my friends Borderlands. And yeah, so I'm streaming Borderlands with three of my friends, Strudel, Ooh, and Sam Caroli at 7 p.m. GMT plus 8. So if you are interested in watching me play a first person shooter game, or what Strudel says, vending machine shopping simulator for Nuna, please watch my stream. Anyway, thank you so much once again for dropping by, and I hope you guys enjoyed the reading session for today, and I'll see you guys soon for the last chapter of Before the Coffee Gets Cold by Toshikazu Kawaguchi. I will announce the next book the next time. See you soon. Have a good day, everyone. Have a great weekend too. Come watch me at 7 p.m. GMT plus 8.